Hello, Q Associates would like to introduce you to the new Oracle Database Appliance. This session is going to take you through the one-button installation and deployment scenario. As we can see, we're already running through the installation of an Oracle RAC 11G infrastructure. We can see that it is broken down into the high-level steps of setting up the DNS, setting up SSH, setting up users, running root scripts, and we will see in the log file a bit later on how it flips between both nodes in the rack to deploy successfully according to Oracle's best practices an 11G rack cluster in 2 hours that would normally take anywhere between 2 to 3 days to complete successfully. So we had one running currently. So how did we get to actually deploy the Oracle RAC? So I will take you through the steps that any individual within your organization can achieve. This could be a sysadmin, it can be a storage admin, it can be a DBA, senior or junior. The steps are very, very simplistic. So we have two setups, a typical and custom for the more advanced users. I have created a system earlier, and I'm going to create a Q Associates Oracle database, and it's going to be a very small initial installation. I click through and I give the system a name. I'm going to call it the ODA. I give it my region so that we have our time zones and all this. I determine which type of system I wish to deploy. A full rack cluster for the optimum high availability, a rack 1 for a passive failover, or just a single enterprise edition, and I provide a new root password. I then provide my domain name so that the system understands the network infrastructure. I then simply provide a public host name and an IP address, and the rest will be auto-populated by the installation. I then provide my netmask and a gateway. Moving on, I then determine what is my database server going to be called. I then choose one of predefined setup and installation requirements. These will set the various SGA, PGA, it will set up where the redo log file is set, the size, and various other parameters that Oracle will have pre-configured according to best practices. We then see a summary of all of the data configuration that this deployment will run. This can be cut and pasted, moved into your installation document. We have now seen the simplicity of how to configure the environment variables for an Oracle RAC installation. We already see that we are progressing nicely through the installation process, but what is it doing behind the scenes? The Oracle one-button installation sets each of the steps that you've seen earlier, and it goes flipping between each of the two nodes in the cluster to set up the home, set up the users. We can see that it's setting up a network, setting up the various IP addresses. We flick through the log file and we can see that each of the steps is timed, and we've already previously said this is 1 hour and 50 minutes to deploy an Oracle RAC 11G cluster. Moving through the log file, we can see that it flicks each and every time between ODA 1, ODA 2, setting up the DNS, setting up the host files, configuring time zone, looking into the NTP server, and all of these steps are fully automated, whereas an Oracle DBA would require to be flipping between each of the nodes and making sure that each of these steps are performed in the order in which they need to be performed. We can see multiple scripts running, and again, it's the flipping between each of the nodes. This is the power behind the one-button installation. We can see that as it progresses through, that we begin to set up file systems, we begin to check the networking, we begin to look at the user ID creation, and all of this is performed via the very simple one-button graphical interface. And as we progress, as the installation were to perform, we would see a success finally at step 24. Here we can see that it's beginning to set up the online storage, the start targets, ODA1, ODA2, and as we can see, it's now ready to begin to log into each of the SQL instances of the RAC cluster. We've now seen the simple one-button installation mechanism that Oracle provides as part of the Oracle Database Appliance. This one button allowed us, according to Oracle's best practices, deploy an Oracle RAC infrastructure in under 2 hours. We've also seen what the Oracle infrastructure, the one button, does behind the scenes, flipping between the database nodes, logging into SQL to set up the RAC. However, there is more behind the one button. We've seen the one button deployment. However, how many people patch their Oracle RAC deployments on a regular basis? Oracle also cater for this in the one button installation. We have the Oracle Update, and the update not only patches the Oracle database, RAC, and all other software components installed, but it will also update the Oracle Linux and any firmware. Yes, firmware. This is a database appliance. The appliance comes in 2 part numbers. One for the country, so we will have UK specific country power cords, and the second is the appliance itself, the physical combination of 2 systems joined together structurally, Ethernet, storage and SSD and memory, allowing the deployment and any patching to be performed in a very rapid and consistent manner. In summary, Q Associates have now demonstrated the simplicity of the Oracle one-button installation and patching mechanism. This is only available from the Oracle Database Appliance.